This presentation is about the tech schools and evaluation, in particular the innovation framework we're using as part of the evaluation. The tech schools is an initiative that includes 10 tech schools from around Victoria in 10 local government areas. They work with local partner schools to provide an experience that is focused on innovation, design-based learning and cutting-edge technologies and incorporating industry experiences. They're made of they operate within their own buildings, which are usually attached to a host, which is usually a tertiary institution. The students come on site in most cases. They come in class groups and they interact with technologies and undertake programs which cater for their learning. There's also experiences for teachers through professional learning in a lot of the tech schools, but not in all. Here's some examples of the type of initiatives that they offer. Each tech school was individually built by the host. They operate independently of each other, but they do report to the department. So we are doing an evaluation of just the initial stages. We are working with the department and the tech school directors and other people within the tech school to develop the evaluation. So in terms of evaluation principles, that collaboration is quite key to the co-design process that underpins the evaluation. We're monitoring outcomes and processes involving the key stakeholders, and the key stakeholders there are the partner schools, the teachers and students that attend those, the host, as well as the partner industry and businesses and network and community groups that the tech schools use. We are looking at how to clarify the influence of the tech school on the local community and industry, as well as the other partners. And communication is an important part of the evaluation. In terms of our approach to the evaluation, central to what we're doing is a theory of innovation. And that theory of innovation incorporates contemporary ideas as well as an innovation framework. And that's going to be the focus of our presentation today. The evaluation comes with a set of outcomes, intended outcomes, which are short, medium and long term. Because we're only the first 3 or 4 years of a 20-year initiative, then we're just focusing on the short and medium term outcomes. Our tools, the suite of tools that we have developed, therefore map and align to those short-term outcomes. That suite of tools then enables us to evaluate the outcomes of the initiative as well as the conditions of the initiative. And those analyses will help us to respond to the key evaluation questions. The innovation framework is underpinned by the notion that innovation is the process of assembling and maintaining a novel alignment of ideas, practices and actors to respond to site-specific issues in order to pursue a vision. So we are focusing specifically on the effect of the tech school initiative as a whole, as well as looking at the operations and the outcomes at each individual tech school. We're highlighting the uniqueness of the innovation that's occurring by documenting and analysing the conditions under which that innovation is being implemented. And the JAGA wave model of transfer is quite key to that notion of capturing the conditions of innovation. JAGA states that the wave model allows for a systematic description and analysis of the conditions under which an innovation is being implemented, and there's 3 parts to that model. The first is the content. So what issues are being addressed, what's the vision for the innovation, what ideas, practice and skills are being promoted through the Tech School Initiative, and how are the learning programs that are being developed, who's having input into those, how are they developing both across the whole initiative as well as for each individual tech school. Structurally, we're looking at what conditions this implementation is taking place. So the structural elements include the resources and spaces, including the buildings and the teaching spaces. They've all been individually developed at each tech school under the direction of the host and in association with the host. The administrative practice, guidelines, things that are occurring regionally, because the programs are informed by local industry, therefore the programs developing are quite specific to the region. The governance structures, the various institutions and the enablers and constraints that occur through the specifics of the host, the type of partner schools they're interacting with, the type of industries available, and the other parts of the communities that these tech schools are developing within. Then we have the people, which are the actual stakeholders, their motivations, beliefs, attitudes towards the innovation itself, the leadership practices that are occurring, and how that's contributing to the development of these tech schools. The Tech School Initiative is we're looking at that from the perspective of what STEM skills and practices are emerging through the programs. So what are the students taking away, monitoring the impact of those. STEM interdisciplinarity through how STEM is able to be implemented through the curriculum, and then how that flows into teacher practice and partner school curriculum. We're also looking at it from the perspective of partnerships. So by collecting the perspectives of the key stakeholders, we're able to look at how they're managing, developing those partnerships. The first part is to develop the tools and to establish a baseline for the 20 years. We then are collecting data through from mid this year until the middle of 2023. There have been some issues with that data collection in the baseline, and so we will be extending that baseline data collection into later on this year, depending on how the situation changes. The evaluation design is there's two levels for data collection. There's all tech school data collection, which is occurring at all of the tech schools and gives insight into the Tech School Initiative as a whole. We're also doing case studies of 5 tech schools, which looks at the key stakeholders there, and they're going to be developed into a set of case studies. They'll be developed over the 3 or 4 years. The stakeholders are the tech school staff, which is the director plus facilitators. We're working with teachers and students from schools. We're also speaking to the leadership and those who are intermediaries between the tech school and the school. We're also looking at the industry and community partners and the host. Those stakeholders, as we collect the data through the all tech school data collection and the case study data collection, they'll be analysed through a stakeholder analysis, enabling us to understand the tech school impact, and we'll develop some ecosystem maps. On all of those analyses, the analysis of the whole Tech School Initiative, the case studies and the stakeholder analyses, they'll enable us to respond to the key evaluation questions. It's also worthwhile noting that each of the stakeholder groups, as a team, as an evaluation team, we've set them up so that we've got working groups. A number of us are aligned with each of those stakeholder groups. That enables us to be able to collect the data and design tools and give directions for everybody to collect the data. So the way the data is being collected is that we're all helping to collect the all tech school data, but each of the 5 team members take responsibility for one case study tech school. The suite of tools, there's tools that are just for the all tech schools, including a director interview. We have student and teacher exit surveys, which we developed but are being administered by the department and the tech school. And we have a teacher reflection survey and a student attitude survey, which become part of the baseline. That control group should go up to the student attitude survey, So we also have a control group that aren't tech schools who also be invited to undertake a student attitude survey. Now that's not necessarily related to their tech school visit, but it's to be able to ascertain students' attitudes towards STEM. The industry partner survey and the school principal survey are surveys that will occur throughout the 3 years. So in addition to that, we also have tools that are focused specifically on case study data collection. We have a facilitator interview, so these are people who are working at the tech school and delivering the programs. We've got interviews with the key contact at the partner schools, some partner schools. So we've got 5 tech schools, and we want 3 or 4 partner schools to be part of that case study. In addition to that, we have the student and teacher longitudinal studies, which involve additional interviews and surveys that will follow in order to be able to understand the impact on those individuals over time. We'll have school leadership interviews, as well as additional interviews with industry partners, host and network and community members. This is the timeline for the data collection. This is how it stood at the beginning of the year, but as a result of some disruption because of the COVID situation, we haven't been able to do a lot of data collection in term 2 in particular, plus some late start meant that we didn't get a lot done in term 1. So there is some shift, but as you can see, each of the working groups are coloured down the side on the right, and they correlate to the various colours within the Gantt chart. So the case study in particular is an important part because that enables us to look quite closely at the conditions which underpin the innovation. So the case studies include the perspectives from the tech school, the network of schools that are working there, the host and the way they impact on the administration of the tech schools, and it's quite different depending on who the host is, industry partners and community groups. Just to look then at the data analysis processes, we ran a pilot last year, and that was completed in order to understand the effectiveness of the tools and the data, the recruitment processes. We aren't able to do the baseline analysis yet, but we will do that later this year. So what we've got out of that process was some validated tools, and we will have a baseline established. The primary analysis includes the case study, occurs at the case study level, and that's a horizontal analysis that includes all of the stakeholder perspectives, and we'll develop case studies. That they will be developed over 3 years, so they'll be longitudinal in nature. The secondary analysis, also longitudinal, but looking specifically at each of the working groups or the stakeholder groups. So we'll have that stakeholder analysis, and that'll include all of the data from the case study and the whole tech school initiative. The tertiary analysis enables cross-case analysis and the whole cohort data analysis, and also consider the control data. So that'll enable us to provide response to the KEQs. I just wanted to talk briefly about the COVID-19 response. As I mentioned, there has been some delay in data collection, but this is really important because what tech schools have been required to do is to move principally hands-on, innovative, face-to-face experiences online. There's been a direction from the department to provide some materials for Fuse, which is an online a repository of resources for teachers. So we're needing to capture that pivoting and that change. So in terms of how flexible the actual model, the tech school model is. So what are some of the challenges that are being faced? What are some of the opportunities that are arising because of it? And what type of response is occurring within the whole tech school ecosystem and across the network of tech schools? We're looking at how the programs are changing, how the operations are adapting to the situation, and we're looking at the evolution of the response. So while there's been immediate response now, what's going to happen long term? In terms of the actual data collection at the tech school level, we've needed to modify our tools to include questions in the data we can collect now with the tech school facilitators, the industry and the hosts. Also, we're putting in a new interview with the director because they're actually quite excited about the new things that are emerging. They were pretty scared initially, but I think they're pretty excited about the new things that they've been able to develop. In terms of school data collection, there has been a pause on a lot of the collection to date. So some of those data collection will actually occur in term 3 or 4 this year. There's been adjustments to the teacher surveys to include online attendance. Just some final comments then. We are doing a responsive evaluation from Stake and Abner's point of view. This provides for consultation and collaboration with stakeholders in the evaluation design. That's been a really important part. We've had a lot of meetings with directors. We have ongoing meetings with the department in order to both develop the tools as well as look at how to implement them and how to modify and change them as needed. And because there's an elicitation of the personal experiences of the participants. This is an early part of the initiative that we're looking at. So we're looking at how the tech schools are being established. We are putting together the baseline, but we're also capturing some of the early developmental changes in terms of the content, how the people they're engaging with changing, and what structures are changing, so in terms of operations and processes, and how have those 3 things then interacted in order to have the outcome that the tech schools are having. So ultimately, while the tech schools are being flexible and adaptable at this period of time, there's no doubt that we as an evaluation also have to be flexible in order to accommodate the changes. So that's our evaluation. We look forward to reporting on some of the outcomes in coming years. Thank you.